I only clean for people in my own educational level. And one of them is a family of messies. There's the parents and 2 children, and they're all unbelievably messy. And when I go there to clean, most of the time is spent picking objects up off of the surfaces so that it's possible to clean the surfaces. You know, the children throw 10,000 toys all over the apartment, and the kitchen looks like the Third World War has happened in it every week.
Every week?
Yeah.
They leave everything as they use it.
Yes, and there's so many crumbs ground into the floor and mixed in with dried sticky juice and fat and stuff that this is a real challenge. This is the challenge of the week. We have a separate sponge for cleaning the toilet. I used to do sort of repair jobs, you know, like hanging up kitchen cabinets on the wall, or fixing broken faucets or broken toilets or something like this. And frankly, this is much more frustrating than cleaning, and it doesn't pay any better. Cleaning is a predictable thing, and these other jobs, you always have to run off 7 times to the hardware store because you don't have the right kind of screw. And sometimes by the time you've finished, you realize that they don't really want to pay you as much as the time you've had to spend on this little task. If anybody had known that it would take this long, they would have said, forget it. Whereas cleaning is straightforward. And this appeals to me. Well, you see back here where the orange curtain is, this goes to something which used to be the pantry off of the kitchen. Just to the right of the toilet will be 2 steps, and then back there will be a bathtub with a shower over it.
You told me that you give yourself another deadline to do this bath project until October. Where do you
Which
stand?
year was that? I started this project 18 years ago. You'll see the bathtub standing in the kitchen.
So
I have
again,
owned this bathtub for 13 years now. You know, my little rugs, I shouldn't admit this in public, but I shake them out the window. I open the window and I look out and I make sure that no one is looking, and then I just shake them vigorously out the window. I don't believe in all these cleaning products that are sold. This is just a way for companies to make money. You don't need all these 50 kinds of cleaning products that people always have under the sink. All you really need is dish detergent and vinegar. This is really all you need. Just cheap white vinegar is the best thing for cleaning the toilet. I mean, dissolved in the water. Put a tiny little bit of dish detergent in it and then a fair amount of concentrated vinegar, and that's also a good combination for washing windows or floors or anything. This water from this small surface after 2 weeks is dark gray. It's because Berlin is dirty. If you leave the windows open during the summer, dirt continually comes in. At the time when I got my degree, this was kind of economic downturn. So there wasn't any work in the fields that we had all studied, we liberal arts types. And I started fixing up things in people's houses. And this has more status than cleaning. I painted and built bookshelves, and then people liked this, and so they asked me to build them a deck or even remodel the kitchen. So I got more and more elaborate jobs. And really the only reason that I stopped, in fact the reason that I came to Berlin, was that my customers all died. Most of them were Europeans who'd moved to the US for various reasons. And they had this old world, old generation appreciation of good work. And I had a wonderful relationship with these people. They never complained about how much something cost, because they could see that I just did a good job and it took that long and that should be rewarded. I never had any problem with this. And then they all started to die, and they all said, well, you can continue on by working for our children, but you won't be very happy working for our children, because the next generation wanted everything to be done perfectly and finished by yesterday and cheap. And they had no appreciation whatsoever of real quality work. Or they didn't see a relationship between the quality work and what you had to pay for it.
The people that you clean for are on your educational level.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they're all people with university degrees. And they're all very nice, and this is the only one that's messy.
It's unusual for a German family, if they are German, to be messy.
Well, I cleaned once for the parents of the wife of this couple. And they're unbelievably neat. So probably that's why the daughter is a messy.
What is it that makes a good cleaner?
You're asking such difficult questions.
It's not easy, is it?
Well, the obvious answer would be that it's good when the dirt is gone, but it's probably not really just that. I think it's because the person who's paying you wants to have certain thoughts afterwards. It's not just that the dirt is gone, but that they think that you have used your brain while doing it, that you've made decisions, and that those are the same decisions that they would have made. And that's probably why I like cleaning for people in my educational bracket, because they have the same secret thoughts that I would. An American dishwashing rag, and I prefer, it's the only thing I prefer about America. And I have to go back to America now and buy another package of these. They come in 3 in a package, and you can see how intensively I use these things.
Yes. How old are they?
Oh, they're not that old. Maybe this is 2 years old.
You don't pass for a German.
No, I don't pass for anything.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my goal. The hardest room of all is the kitchen. So I always start with the kitchen because if I saved it until the end, I wouldn't be able to deal with it.
Right. That means they use the kitchen. They cook. They do all sorts of things.
Yes, and the children also cook. You know, I don't think this is what you'd call really cooking, but you can tell by all the baking pans that the two daughters have tried to make cookies. And most of the dough ends up on the floor or on the stove or stuck to the chairs. Well, I get paid a regular amount, which is for 3 hours, and this is the advantage of working for people in your own educational level, is nobody tells me what to do, and it's completely clear to them that you can't clean everything in this flat in 3 hours, so they just leave it up to me what to do. And so I don't do the same thing every week. I try to get to everything every once in a while in a kind of rotating system. And if I don't clean the bathroom at all, they never say anything about this. And I know that it doesn't bother them because they think, oh, well, he cleaned something else today. I once cleaned here in the next door house the stairwells for a while. And this was a completely unsatisfactory human relationship. The woman who paid me was terribly fussy and always had some little thing to complain about, even though I cleaned much better than the person before me, because when I started, these stairwells were in terrible condition. All of the baseboards were completely spattered with dirty water from washing the stairs and whatnot, and I cleaned all this, and I know that this is better than the previous person, but her interest was to make sure that I remembered that I was less than she was. Everyone loses with this. The cleaners who clean like that couldn't possibly have any real satisfaction from it, and the people whose places get cleaned aren't happy with the results, so this is unsatisfactory for everyone. I notice that while I'm cleaning, my mind is fully occupied with what I'm doing, so there must be something in it worth thinking about. You sort of decide what order you're going to do things in, or how to make a certain motion more efficient. But I don't have a lot of thoughts outside of the cleaning while I'm doing this, and this is actually one of the reasons that it's tolerable. Somehow it's absorbing. It's interesting that you make my life into something where you could use the word career. And on the one hand, it's perfectly ridiculous to call cleaning a career, But there is something to this, that it's kind of the way Americans generally are. They're not like Germans where they either do or dream of doing the same job their whole life long. The average American, I don't know, statistically changes his career 5 times in his life, and this is the way I've lived too. And if you don't put any value judgment on the contents of these career aspects, it actually follows a normal American pattern, what I did.
Yeah.
My friends who have more status-oriented, or jobs which have more status, they always moan to me about how it's just the same thing over and over again. So I'm not even convinced that cleaning is that much lower than being a doctor or a lawyer. Lawyers are always working over the same boring stuff and looking in all these books. And one doctor friend told me it's always the same people coming back year in, year out. It's just always the same thing over and over and over again. And I thought, it sounds like cleaning. I'd been to Berlin a number of times before, and I noticed that things like concerts and the opera were much cheaper to attend than in the U.S. Since I don't have a lifestyle that generates a lot of money, I thought that this might be a good place to live. So then I started going to concerts and to the opera and to the theater. And this became a kind of an obsession. And soon I was going to something like this 3 or 4 evenings a week. And of course this meant that I knew a lot about what was going on in town. I knew which theater productions were interesting, and it occurred to me when I observed my friends here, most of whom were single and employed, that they were all interested in culture, but they came home tired from work and didn't have the concentration left to decide if they wanted to go to a cultural event that evening. So I started making a little culture calendar and distributing it to my friends. And this led to very interesting communal visits to cultural events. Meseberg is a village 65 kilometers north of Berlin, a little tiny village. First, I just wanted to sort of bring the organ into the public light, because it's really very good, and it always bothers me when something of that quality, a musical instrument, just stands silent. So I organized a concert series there. But it's in a way, it's the same as the culture calendar, because most of what you do is try to convince people to come. I have this little feeling that the real purpose of culture is kind of to to strengthen you inside against the forces of society. And it seems to me that it worked this way for me, and I like the idea that this might happen to a few other people. If you go to culture frequently, as I did for a while, 3 or 4 times a week, you notice that if you're awake and concentrated when you go, that your head is full of little ideas and reactions the whole time, so that you're busy processing feelings and thoughts. And this is a kind of way of strengthening your person, maybe. Mm-hmm. And then you're not as willing to toe the line. And whenever I clean these things, I always think how lucky I am not to be one in a pair. I think of myself not like this, but like this.
Why did you then get any 2 pieces? If you don't have many, but...
No, because sometimes when you set a table for a dinner party, it looks nice if you have things that match. To me, there's a good way of being together and a bad way. And many couples are engaged in all day long, every day, in an endlessly repeated cycle of proving something to themselves, that they are in this couple.
Can the single also be doing the ever same and deceiving themselves or not?
Yes, they can be thinking, for example, that they have achieved independence, but actually it's not what they want. From the Metropolitan Museum. And you see that this is different on one side and the other side. You see, these are different. Now, I'm going to show you something interesting. First, I take the spoon away so that it doesn't complicate matters. Humanity divides itself automatically into 2 groups. The people who immediately perceive that this is brown and this is brown, and on this side, this is green and this is green, and they put the cover back on this like this. However, the other group are the people who don't perceive this, and they put the cover on like this. It doesn't look bad like this, but it's not really the right way.
This is very interesting. I've never thought of dividing humanity in this way. But it says something about human perception.
Absolutely.
A lot.
Whenever I have a new guest, I always watch to see how they put the cover back on the sugar.
Would there be a third group who doesn't put the cover back?
Well, there probably is such a group, but they don't come to my apartment.
No.
Unfortunately, all the surfaces in my apartment, which originally were intended for some other purpose, have become places to put papers on. Everyone who comes in here immediately plops down in one of these 3 chairs and immediately puts his or her feet up on the stool. The other day someone said to me something like, "Oh, John, you're smarter than the rest of us. You know how to live like a millionaire with no money." And I said, "What does that mean?" Because I'm always worried about how I'm going to get my health insurance bill paid. But he, of course, had another idea of what living like a millionaire really means.
John,
Oh,
you tired?
yes.
Why?
Because I worked hard this morning.
Cleaning?
Yeah.
I can tell.
And it was hot today. Well, there's this idea of the footprint in a sort of im übertragenen Sinne. How do you say this in English? I forgot.
In a metaphoric sense?
You know, how much of a footprint you make on the earth. This is, I guess it's actually rather something negative, because you say this also about things in ecological terms, like does a business or a factory leave a big footprint, I think you say in English, and this means, do you have a large, lasting, negative impact on the surroundings? And my goal is to have the smallest possible footprint. If I haven't made the world slightly better by the time I'm gone, then I don't worry about, can't think of any English words today. Nachruhm doesn't interest me. I don't care about a legacy or something like this. Well, they want to think that they haven't lived in vain, that there was something that they did which had a lasting value. That's what the footprint is. Either they leave a family, or they leave something they've created, some business or some art or something. I think they actually actively try to leave a footprint, whereas I don't care about this. If the things I do leave a footprint, then that's fine, but that's not the goal and doesn't interest me personally very much. I mean, the act of leaving the footprint doesn't interest me.